Welcome to The Woodshed with Cody Wood right here on the Everest Radio Network. This is a place for honest talk with real stories from some amazing guests. Here we talk about life, the highs, the lows, and everything in between. From small town roots to big dreams, from the rodeo arena to the back porch, we dive into what makes us who we are. So whether you're chasing 8 seconds or just trying to make it through the day, you've got a spot right here in The Woodshed. Here's your host, Cody Wood.
Well, hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of The Woodshed with Cody Wood here on the Everest Network Radio. And I have got a fantastic guest for you here today, one of the most extraordinary people I have ever met. This is Sarah Burkeen. Sarah Burkeen, the CEO and founder of Everest Point Christian Academy. Sarah, it's so good to see you today.
Cody, it's so good to see you, always. Thank you so much for having me on.
Yeah, I know it. I've been looking forward to this for a while now. So, we have had the opportunity to know each other for quite some time. And, just what you've accomplished over the last, 20, 25 years from school till now has just been extraordinary. And I cannot wait to tell your story and just kind of learn a little bit more about, where you've been and where you're going. And so, with Everest Point Christian Academy, you've founded it back in 2019.
Yep. Yeah, that's correct. I kind of just had this calling. Well, I've known my whole life that I was meant to be a teacher. God put me on this earth to be in education. So as I've been going through, I've just kind of learned a lot, and it's not what I thought it was going to be. So I'm kind of trying to turn it into what I wanted it to be and what I think it should be. So I've started with Everest Point 6 years ago, and we opened under a public system. Even though it's kind of like a private school operating in the public system, I wanted better for kids. I wanted smaller class sizes. I wanted teachers that cared about kids. I wanted kids to have opportunities. And I wanted a partnership with parents. I feel like parents are often just kind of pushed out of the school system. So I wanted a partnership with them because I think it's so important for kids to have the connection at home and school. So opening Everest Point Homeschool Academy has been awesome and amazing, but being under the public system, I've been tied to a lot of the craziness that's happening in the public system, like allowing boys to use girls' restrooms or keeping parents out of the different things that happen with kids at school. Like if a kid comes to school and says something to us like, I think I'm a boy or I want to be a boy, we're not allowed to talk to parents about it. And we're actually now kind of like have to push parents out of it because they feel like it's a safety concern. And I'm just totally against that. Being the Christian conservative lady I am, I think parents are your number one educator. And I think that's all the way through. And in order for it to be best for kids, you just need to have a partnership. So now that things are kind of nuts in Colorado and the laws are getting crazy, I can't play in that playground anymore. It just feels like the devil's playground. And I don't want to be a part of it. So I'm taking the biggest leap of faith I've ever taken in my entire life. And I'm feeling it for sure, but I'm holding steady and I'm opening Everest Point Christian Academy, where we are a Christian school for homeschoolers. The students come 2 days a week. We partner with families with core curriculum. They can get full credits at our school. We're K through 12. So I'm just trying to do something where people that are Christians and but we're not like out there just thumping our Bibles in people's faces and you've got to believe this way and do this. It's not like that at all. It's just, I want a place where families can send their kids to school and feel comfortable sending them there and know that they are going to be involved and they're going to be informed of things they should be informed about and that they have a say when their kids come to my school. And the kids love it and they don't feel ashamed being Christians. They know they're surrounded by other Christians, the staff, the students, everybody. So we can really walk our walk and therefore build a super solid baseline and foundation for our kids. I really feel like people have it wrong. They're saving and saving and saving to invest in their child's college career. And I feel like that's backwards. My husband actually made me realize that we're doing it the wrong way. People should be investing in their kids now. You should be paying money to send your kids to private school now so that way they get that solid baseline and that solid foundation, and they're still listening to you as parents. When they go to college, they're listening to their professors, they're listening to their friends, and there's so much insane indoctrination going on that kids come back from college and they're not even the same kid that left when they left their parents' house. I feel like if we can really give them a great baseline where they just know who they are and they know who God is and they know who Jesus is, they'll always fall back on that no matter where their walk takes them. Because, the walk can be an interesting thing in itself.
Yeah, especially at those ages. And oh my God, I mean, I bet you there's just millions upon millions of people that would resonate with every word that you just said. Absolutely certain aspects of what you just said, especially right now in today's society. And it's just incredible, to have the opportunity and to have somebody who is willing to see what needs to be fixed and then take the actions and the steps to do it rather than just talking about it, on a Friday night and, the wishes and, wish I could have done this type of thing. And so it's just incredible that you're actually doing what you believe in. And so you talked about being, driven by, being in education and knowing that that was your calling and kind of where it got you here today. So that is that where it all started, back right out of school, you started to be a teacher and really got your, kind of your feet wet, I guess, on the ground level, if you will.
Yeah, well, and it's funny because I was a Christian that didn't really grow up in a Christian household. I just knew the Lord. And I really believe that that's the Holy Spirit within us. That's something that I've kind of realized that that's how God is omnipresent present with us. He is the Holy Spirit within us, and that's our helper that He's left us with. So He's always been in me, and He's always told me, like kids. I know it's kind of weird, but kids do just kind of flock to me, and I know that's because that's the gift that God gave me. So I knew I was going to be a teacher, so I started watching all the teachers I had going through school, the good, the bad, what I wanted to take away from each of them. And I just knew going out, I'm going to be a teacher. Well, of course, the devil always tries to play with you. And he's like, no, Sarah, you should do this, and this will be easier and faster. So I did start out as education for my undergrad, but then I kind of got swayed thinking, well, maybe I'll go into human resources or something. Because if I do that, then I'm pretty much done with my degree and I'm out. But I just couldn't. Like, God speaks so fiercely to my stomach that I can't ignore it as much as I try sometimes selfishly to ignore it. I just can't. So I graduated with my bachelor's, and 2 days later I started my master's degree to become a teacher. So I did that straight from getting a master's degree in education. I became a teacher. I'm straight out of the door, and I've been in it ever since. So I guess it's over 20 years now that I've been in education. But God has always been guiding my choices, and I've made some pretty significant leaps of faith throughout my career. This is the biggest, and I kind of feel like at peace that this might be the last time that I have to do something so drastic in my life. And I hope that that's the case because I'm 43 now, Cody, and I don't have I kind of want to enjoy the ride a little bit.
Yeah, I know. Well, you never know. Honestly, with somebody like yourself that is, called to do extraordinary things, I wouldn't be surprised if you might have a few more leaps of faith. This world needs people like that. But so when you look back at it, and this is when people do big things and make that bold leap, there tends to be that moment where, the light bulb goes off or, the lightning strikes and and so I have to imagine that there was probably a moment when you were right there and embedded in the public school system where it was like, oh my gosh, I can't take this anymore, or I need to do something and take control of the situation. Did you have a moment like that? And if so, what was it?
Well, I say I've had two significant moments that have been life altering for me. The first one was when I was in that original Everest Point Homeschool, or it wasn't Everest Point Homeschool Academy. It's what Everest Point Homeschool Academy came out of. I was a director for another local school district in Colorado, and we had a student who was an absolute significant threat. Like, he had some major things going on in his life, and I could see a change in behavior. And my undergrads in behavioral sciences, I also was a in high school when Columbine happened, so I remember significantly that happening and just paying attention to those kinds of things and being a director and being incredibly protective of my babies in my school, so my K through 12 kids and my families. I'm always paying attention. Safety is my absolute number one. Kids need to be safe and feel safe when they're at school. So this kid was doing all kinds of crazy things. Like he straight up said that he was going to kill a couple of the kids at school. He came dressed as a school shooter for Halloween. He would sit in class and hold up his a finger gun behind kids' heads and pretend to shoot their heads off. I mean, he was doing all kinds of crazy things. He brought a bullet to school and put it on another kid's items, like as a threat. And at first, everybody was listening to me and completely on my side. And telling me, we're going to get this kid out of here. He doesn't need to be in here. But the second the mom claimed that I was targeting her son, which I absolutely wasn't. I mean, I have eyewitness, I have documentation upon documentation on this. I love children, and I was actually trying to help this kid. I actually went above and beyond to try to help this kid, but they just wanted to brush under the rug. And I was specifically told that. And I had witnesses, parent witnesses, that were sitting in the same room and heard my boss tell me to brush us under the rug. And I just thought to myself, wow, how easy for you to say when you leave here in 20 minutes and you head back to your comfy office sitting in your cubicle and you're not here worried about what actually could happen to these people. And on top of that, they won't let me tell any of the families that this is happening. Where I'm like, and I've been fighting it and fighting it. It started in October. And this was now finally, this was December and then January. And I kept telling them, tell the families so that they can make the decision on, do you want to send your child to school or not that day? And they would not let me say a word to anybody because the mom of this student is now at the board saying she's going to sue us. So the second you get litigious as a parent and you're loud, then everything turned. Everything turned on me. It was ridiculous. The mom came into the school and assaulted me. I had to get a restraining order against her, but yet still they're keeping the kid there. Then they take away my rights to punish this kid. And it was just unreal, Cody. I cried more than I probably ever cried in my life. I would go home to my husband, the people that were really close to me in my life, and my mom and best friends. I'm sure I spoke with you a lot about it. And just, am I the crazy one here? Like, am I crazy? Is this me? And I feel like that was the devil trying to work his way in to get me to give up. And I was like, I'm not giving up. And this is ridiculous. So I went in and put my foot down and I said, you guys tell the families and you get this kid out of here. And that's it. There was no or. I knew the or was going to be they'll fire me. And I knew they would do that. But I knew if they fired me, the word would get out because I loved that school and they loved me there. And they had no idea any of this was going on. So when they fired me, the word spread like crazy. The parents got infuriated. I gave myself like about 4 or 6 weeks to heal because that was horrible. And then I was like, you know what? I'm starting my own school. And that's when I started Everest Point Homeschool. Well, 6 years into Everest Point Homeschool, I mean, 3 years we were solid, like nothing, we were really good, really under the radar, doing our thing. Then, Colorado starts coming out with these crazy, crazy things that they're coming out with. And it's starting to trickle into my school because COVID happened. And now a lot of the families are seeing that, oh, school's not so great anymore. And now they're sending their kids or they're wanting to homeschool, but they need support with the homeschooling. So now they're sending their kids into my school. And now a lot of the public system starting to trickle into my school. So, my second significant piece that was like, okay, this is it. Now we've got to switch from this was when we've had the transgendered coming in and wanting to use this was a seventh grade boy. And he is having, I'm sure I feel bad for these kids, honestly. They're struggling in their life too. And when the society around them is saying, oh, yeah, maybe you are a boy. Sure. Or maybe you are a girl. Yeah, maybe that is, maybe you are in the wrong body. We're their role models. And so they're going to listen to us. And I remember being a tomboy. And if my mom had come to me and been like, oh, Sarah, maybe you're a boy, I probably would have explored that. But just knowing that, yep, everybody goes through a phase, it's puberty, it's nuts, and we get out on the other side instead of saying like yes you're in the wrong body. Oh, it's just insane. And I know in the Bible it says if we lead these little ones to the wrong thing, then woe to us. And I don't want to be that person. I want to lead them to the right way. So when they came in and said, here's the seventh grade boy who is going to be using the girls' bathrooms with my kindergartners and first graders. And can you imagine the little kindergartners who are sitting on the potty with their little feet dangling and they're just sitting there singing like they are because they're so silly and cute. And they look over and underneath the stall, there's feet facing the toilet. Like how confusing that is for a little girl, let alone how unsafe it is. And this student was a great student and they were fine. And didn't see them as a threat. But nonetheless, there's a reason for boys' best restrooms. There's a reason for girls' restrooms. And I believe in that.
Yeah, definitely. And I think you're right too, especially going back to the comment you made when you were talking about, how, maybe that was the devil creeping in and trying to get you to give up, at the other end of that, I mean, that was probably God playing a big role in your life, and he had a direct path that he was hoping that you would go down, and you're still on that path. So I think to your point about taking a leap of faith and having confidence in that leap, that's really got to give you reassurance, right? And I know that it's probably challenging, especially right when you're in the heat of the battle and all that. But I think there's without question that you are on the path you're supposed to be down and go down, and there's probably thousands, if not millions, of people that you might impact just from going down this journey over the next year, over the next 5 years, over the next 20 years. Yeah, so when you're looking at this path that you've been going on, and now here we are today, after 6 years now of Everest Point Christian Academy, and where you're at now, so you started things off, your headquarters is in North Glen, Colorado, and you've got different locations, and but I really, like I said, because I think there's millions of people out there that love the idea of homeschooling, but one, they don't know where to begin. Two, they don't have any experience with it, to understand the quality of education that they could provide to their kids. And essentially, those two aspects are massive in what you're helping these, families connect the dots with, and then above and beyond that as well.
Absolutely. Yeah. One of the standards of Everest Point is that the director stands at the front door and greets all families that come in. Cause like we really, really want that partnership and that relationship and that community. And so we get over the years just talking with families. I was always listening, like, what does a family struggle with? What do they love? What do they need help with? And so just of that kind of years of listening to families, I've taken just kind of this internal data where I knew that they, especially when they get to high school, they feel very uncomfortable, so they send their kids back to public school, which that's like the time where I'm like, no, because like that's where things tend to get real wild, middle school, high school. So, and homeschool kids consistently outperform public school kids. I mean, how could they not? They're like one-on-one education with somebody that really cares about them. So we created a partnership to where our old model was 1 day a week and we were much more enrichment. Now we're 2 days a week and we are both enrichment and we are academic. So the families that just want enrichment, we've got it. If they want that extra support, we've got it. We are all homeschoolers in my school. We all get it. Some of our staff isn't, but the majority of us are homeschoolers or have been homeschoolers. And I have a master's degree in education. And when I started homeschooling, I had no idea what I was doing. Like it was the hardest thing. So these families that are coming in and wanting to do great by their kids have got to be terrified. Because me as a trained teacher and other trained teachers that I know that have homeschooled, it's a complete mind shift that you have to make. And then you're leaving the public system for a reason, right? You have to quit comparing yourself to that, and you have to look at your child as an individual and really build on what are their strengths, what is their big picture, and building upon that rather than shoving them into a room with 25, 30 kids into a hopefully one size fits all. Well, we all know not one size fits all. It just can't happen. And we're trying to standardize humans, and humans are not meant to be standardized. We're all unique individuals, and the homeschooling thing for sure can be daunting, but we absolutely like I talk to my families and I'm like, there is no question that is stupid, even though, of course there's questions that are stupid. But when it comes to homeschooling and you're trying to do something great for your kid, there is no question that is stupid. So ask it, bring us anything. And I've never been asked a stupid question. I've always been asked questions that everybody else has, but everybody just kind of feels embarrassed about it. So we try to hold like little coffee mornings and stuff and get our community to know each other. The homeschool community is so tight where we can have each other to lean on and like, hey, what curriculum are you using for this? And when we chose our curriculum, we were very diligent about making sure it was doable for families and also meets needs and can excel kids. Like there's add-ons if they want to do add-ons, or if there's some stuff that's remedial that they need, we can go remedial. Whatever they need, we can absolutely curtail education for every student out there if families are willing to homeschool. And I know that's something that families are like, well, I can't do that. I've got to work full time. I know families that they both work full time and they make it happen, which incredibly hard, very, very challenging. You've got to have some support out there for you. But a lot of these families are making the huge sacrifice and going to a one income family. And so one of them is sacrificing an income so that they can educate their kids because our public system that we're paying all these taxes into isn't doing it for us. So I found a way where families can still access their public funds, but in a Christian community school. God is always leading me on ways. I grew up pretty poor, so He's always showing me ways to be frugal and ways to make it happen, even when you don't have any money. So the tuition for my school is, if they participate in the public side of it, which again I have completely protected us from the scary outside public stuff. Um, but if they participate in that, the tuition's $2,000, which for some families, my family, when I was growing up, there's no way we could have afforded even the $2,000. So I have grants and financial aid completely set up. We've given away over $100,000 this year, and we're still giving away. I'm not going to let a family not access this because of money. Money is the devil, and I'm not going to play that game with him. So even though he's really trying hard, he's trying really, really hard. So again, that's where my faith is coming in. My computer's covered in quotes of faith and verses from the Bible because I have families that are coming in. The most they're having to pay total the whole year is just over $300. And that is something we can make happen because I want this to happen for families.
That is so incredible because I think that, like I said, not just the fact that they don't know where to begin and where to start. I think a lot of them don't even attempt to get started, because they probably think that there's thousands of dollars in cost and whatnot to even get started. So that is just incredible to give these kids an opportunity not only at a better education, which will lead to a better life and a better foundation when they do get to those launch pads, if you will, into life. And man, that is incredible. And so when you look at a family and what their typical week might look like, this is something else that I thought was just kind of interesting. So kind of take us through what that looks like, right? Because you said that they might have, maybe they have a part-time job, or they're trying to make two incomes work, or just in general, they come into an actual physical classroom with your staff. And what does that typical week look like for a child?
Yeah, sure. And that's how, like, homeschooling is so incredibly flexible. So they could send their kids to my school. My school is Tuesdays and Wednesdays. So, and it's 9 to 3:30, except on Tuesdays we do a worship service. So that one's 9 to 4 if they choose to participate in that. Um, so like those 2 days, families could be working. And then the other 3 days they could be at home, or they could also be working, but then do the homeschooling on the weekend, when they're off of work. So you can get everything done in 4 days of homeschooling for sure. There's 172 days on average is what you need to get in, approximately 4 hours a day in Colorado. So we're already covering a significant amount of that for families just on our 2 days of 6 hours. So they would come to my school, work again, K through 12, kinder and first graders. They're what's called self-contained, where they're just in their room, except for they do go to a specials time throughout the day, which is either, like art or PE, music, something like that. And then my second through 12th graders, they have a schedule of 5 classes, about an hour each. And they go through those 5 classes. We do a nice long extended lunch. So it's not like, hurry, get in here and shove this food in your mouth and get back to class. And my poor little kindergartners, when I was in the public system, were bringing back their food with them to class. They never had time for a recess, and they're throwing half of their lunch away. And it was awful. I hated that. So we have a 50-minute lunch where there's plenty of time for socializing. We do a 15-minute social break in the morning, like after first period, because, kids come to school, they want to see their friends, they want to chat. And that helps to keep them focused in the class because they do get ample chat time during the day. I was the chat time girl. I needed that in order to be able to focus in class. So we've got that for our kids. And then the rest of the week, depending on what they're doing. So if they're taking core classes with us, we assign the outside core class for them to do at home. So they're not having to get any extra curriculum. They're not going to have to figure anything else out. They just complete the assignments at home, but they are expected to grade the outside assignments so that way there is a true partnership between what their student is learning. Then anything else that they want to do on top of it, or if we're not offering something that they need, they would then get their curriculum or what they need for that. But Cody, I am not joking you. Like when you pray to the Lord and you ask him to surround you with who's supposed to surround you, he will do it. And the staff I have, and I tell them this all the time, they probably think that I'm just trying to butter them up, but honest to God, like they are true blessings to my building. The support we have in there is incredible. So any of my families that are like, hey, I need to do biology this year, but you guys are doing chemistry. So what do I do for biology? They can come into my building. Our registrar, Jamie, like she knows every curriculum that's out there. All of our teachers, we have such support in there that they can come in and we could sit down with them and be like, hey, what are you looking for? Okay, here's some options for you. Like the amount of knowledge in my building, I can't imagine us not being able to help anybody who came in as a homeschooler and needing help in any way that they need it.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And that's kind of exactly where I was going to go is, we talked about your staff offline and you mentioned it a little bit beforehand. The staff that you've been able to put together is so incredible and carrying on those same thoughts and values and goals that you have, it's kind of trickled down to them as well. And so when you look at your staff and the different teachers that you have, what does that kind of look like? What could a family expect, from, I guess the number of staff and if a kindergartner versus a 12th grader, what that might look like?
Yeah, well, overall, we keep our class ratio small, and it's a true ratio. If you look at ratios for like public schools, it might say something like, oh, ratios 1 to 20. Well, that's because they're including like all the office staff and all the paras and everything. But you actually walk into a classroom and you see how many kids are in one classroom for one teacher. It's like 25, 30. But at Everest Point, our classes are between 12 to 14, unless it's like a music or a PE class. We might take those up to 20, maybe just because it's more fun, with more kids in those classes. But we keep them small so that my staff knows these students. We know their dog's name. We know their brothers and sisters. We know who's in what family. We we know like, oh man, this kid's having a hard time. One of my precious teachers, like, you know what? I am so excited for this new model because now if I see a little kid and her name's Karen and she's like, if I see a little kid that's struggling that day and she works with kinder and first graders, she's like, I'll be able to pray for them. Or if we're having a fire drill, because sometimes that's scary. It's okay, honey, and I'll be able to pray for them or tell them like it's okay, Jesus is with us. And that's the kind of staff we have. Like they actually care about your kid and they're not just there to get a good score on the test and make the teacher hopefully keep their job. Teachers are under so much stupid pressure on these standardized tests that mean absolutely nothing to anybody. It's just a ridiculous waste of time. It's a ridiculous waste of emotion. And we don't do it at Everest Point. We do not participate in that. We use all of our time the best way we can. And standardized testing kids consistently over weeks of time or days is not a good use of anybody's time.
Yeah, no, I mean, for myself personally, I think that it impacted me in a negative way, and not everybody learns the same, and I think it's fantastic for folks to have the opportunity to explore other ways for children to learn and to gain those experiences and stuff, and I mean, right now, when you look at homeschooling, when you look at the typical American family right now, I mean, this is, I think, got to been. I don't know, you might even have some numbers of what the percentage of families now into the homeschooling system might look like, or, even just the conversation and how it's, been increased over the last couple of years. And so how is that piece looking and how does that conversation change from when you started in 2019 till now?
Oh, it's drastically different. It's funny that actually you say that because when I was teaching at the public school, I had that same like stigma on these homeschoolers, like, oh, they're homeschooling because they're weird, they're socially awkward, they're, whatever reasons, or they're super low, or the families just can't get to school. All the things that you hear in the public school, and oh my gosh, it couldn't be more different. Like it is so not that way at all. These homeschooling families are the most beautiful people on earth. Like they are the people you want your kids around. These are strong, family oriented, Christian for the most part people. And not all of them are Christian either. Others of them are just seeing like the things that are happening there are wrong and we're pulling out. And I admire them so, so much. But yeah, it started out as like, oh, and I definitely still see that from people out there. But with COVID and everybody seeing like, holy Toledo, what is happening in schools? What's happening with my kid and just it just was a big wake up call to where now it's becoming much more mainstream. It's kind of like how online dating started, it was like, oh my gosh, how could you do that? And now it's just like, how else would you meet people?
Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe now it'll go to like homeschooling will just be a huge part of the norm, which I would love for that to be, because I'd love for them to start doing like the voucher system, which I think there's like 11 different states now doing the voucher system where families have true choice where you want to place your voucher, whether it's a private school or a public school. That's only good for people because all that's going to do is drive competition and make our education actually better.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think it's played out and obviously in the free market and in business in different areas and why not in the education, realm as well, and that's funny, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention it, but I had those same stigmas as, like you said, growing up, oh, they're homeschooled or whatever, made some comments, as little funny jabs or whatever with a few people that I knew that were homeschooled, but I'll tell you, and I wouldn't be surprised if there was other dads out there that had this same exact moment where, I mean, in 2008, 2009, around that time, when Tim Tebow really came on the scene, and made a big splash just in the world in general, and he was homeschooled, and it was evident that he was extremely educated, and if not much more highly educated than the rest of the college students that he was surrounded by, and obviously where he's gone, and impacting the world since then. But he has got to be the epitome of homeschooled students. And so that's when I first realized, like, man, there might be a lot more to this homeschooling than what I originally thought when I was just young and growing up. But so I always just when I think of homeschooling, I always think of Tim Tebow, which is kind of funny.
Yeah, that's hilarious. I actually reached out to him. I'm getting this started because I'm really also looking for donors. Like I need donations to my school so that I can help supplement the private side of my school for families. And so I reached out to old Tim, but he turned me down. So I'm gonna hopefully
Yeah,
he
well,
hears this.
yep, exactly. You never know. Maybe you'll hear this, keep knocking on his door. But, so with that too, and like, what's this school, with the school, just school year right around the corner? I mean, what does the future look like for Everest Point? I mean, where you're at now and where you hope to be 5, 10 years from now. So what's that look like?
Yeah, well, we're just doing so. I did have three schools. We're just starting launching this one with one school in North Glen. So right now we're working on enrollment. I need some more enrollment to get us to where I need to be for this school year. Enrollment though is really pushing. Like just in the last well almost 2 weeks we've had like 20 enrollments. We're getting several a day now, so we will cap out because again I keep my class sizes small, and when we're capped, we're capped. I'm not going to overload them because of money, like that's what you would do in the public system. We're not going to do that. So our building capacity, we cap out at about 170. This year I want to be at 75 kids. Just from some of the other programs that I know have happened, they tend to fill up pretty quickly once word spreads, and especially when word spreads about how great we are and what a great program this is, it's going to spread. So I would love to see us capped out as soon as we can, because that means I'm reaching more people. I'm giving a foundation to as many kids as I can fit into that building. So, I mean, really, I know what I want to happen, but I have to quit seeing what I want to happen and really just focus on being patient for what the Lord wants to happen, because boy, does he keep reminding me of that.
Yeah, no, well, I'm sure you're going down the right path and it's all going to fall into place, So when you're talking about these families and the ones that might be interested out there and taking the next step in homeschooling and the possibility of getting enrolled with Everest Point, what would be their next step? How would that look and how would a family get involved?
Yes, I would love to have them. So they can just go to our website, everestpoint.org. So everestpoint.org. My contact information's down at the very bottom of the page, or they can click on the director's page. I'm on there as well. Feel free to shoot me an email. I check my email consistently throughout the day. So I'm happy to get back with anybody. I'm happy to make phone calls if they want to include their phone number if they want. I'm happy to give them a call if people want to donate to us and help the cause, which would be amazing. All tax deductible. We have a donate button on there on our website, so they can just click on that, takes them right over to it. All those funds go directly to Everest Point, nothing else. So, yeah, that would be amazing.
Yeah, that is incredible. So, any of you folks out there listening right now, I mean, at the end of the day, when it comes to our country, when it comes to our society, without question, it all starts from the ground up in the education and the overall foundation that we instill in our young young kids and the future of what this society and our country will look like ultimately. And so if you're out there and would love to, kind of support what that future might look like, I can promise you right here that this is an individual to get behind and support in a cause and a movement and a school that would be worthwhile and looking into, not only to donate, but if you're looking for your children to have the best opportunity possible, to have the best future possible, Everest Point Christian Academy is a good place to start in that venture. So, Sarah, thank you so much for being here with us today on another great episode here of the Woodshed with Cody Wood on the Equus Radio Network. We're thrilled to have you here. I cannot wait to have you back on and kind of see how the school year starts off for you and how things are starting to evolve and your mission and God's plan for you.
Thank you so much, Cody. Really, truly, this was my pleasure. I appreciate your time so much.
Yeah, well, good luck with the school year. And, folks, this is also, on top of all these things, she is also a mother of a really sweet young little baby boy. And so I'll let you get back to your young son now, Sarah, and just keep being amazing, keep being you, and we'll chat with you soon.
All right, thank you.
If you enjoyed the podcast, let us know. Contact Cody Wood at cody@equustelevision.net. Thanks for listening, and join us every week right here on the Equus Radio Network.